Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Spin It Social Hour. My name is Stefan Kaplan, and it is an absolute privilege and an honor to be here with everybody, and thank you for joining us. Wow, show number 37. This is a biggie, and it's going to be a great one because we are here bringing in the new year, just about. We're all going to go like this to 2020, right? And say, hello, 2021. Please come soon. Anyway, my name is Stefan Kaplan. Like I said, I am a social media and visual strategist, and I have worked with the likes of the Pulitzer Prizes, AARP, the Jackson Charitable Foundation, and many other institutions. I'm also an adjunct professor at FIT. And, wow, so many things. I've lectured, at, many schools and other places. And I've also, been a social media doctor at Princeton University. And I've done workshops, lectured at libraries around Bergen County and everywhere else. So it is a pleasure to be here to bring the Spin It Social Hour to you once again. What can I say? I started this show as, a labor. First of all, apologies. How was everyone's Christmas? Really, really well and really peaceful. It's been quite a week. Christmas was a little off this year. So was Hanukkah. So was everything. And, but we're all staying together and we're all going to pull through this. So I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. And like I said, we're going to bring in the new year with a great one today. So I started the Spin It Social Hour. It's a labor of love born out of care and concern for our photo community, because when this pandemic hit, I decided that I was going to reach out and I was going to help the photo community get their name out there, get their work out there, and be able to spread their stories, share their great work. Because let's face facts, every sector has been hit really hard by this pandemic, by the resulting economic crisis, and many, many other things going on. By the way, our thoughts are with everybody in Tennessee, in Nashville, with what happened the other day. We're thinking of you. Stay strong, and we're with you in Nashville. So the Spin It Social Hour, out of 37 guests, has been a weekly show. But come the new year, as you saw on the card, I'm going to put it up here one more time, we're moving to a new day and time in 2021. Why not do things fresh? We're going to move to Thursdays, every other Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And the first new show will be Thursday, January 7th. The guests will be announced soon, but just know, and you know me by now, it's going to be a great, great 2021. Bringing on tons of interesting photographers and other people in the photo world, in the photo editing world, in the teaching world, you name it. We're going to bring them on. We're going to make it very, very special. And I can't thank you enough for being here. I wanted to leave that up for a bit so everybody could really see it, make their notes, make their snapshots, and tweet about it and Facebook post about it. But you know, today we're here to honor and bring on Terry Abrahamson, who's an incredible all-around guy. I mean, a blues man, a writer, Grammy winner, in the Chicago Blues Hall of Fame inductee. You name it, Terry's done it. He's got two great books that we're going to talk about. Terry's going to talk about everything. He's a great storyteller. We had a great and fun week. Doing a lot together, getting this ready, and let's do it. Let's give him the build-up that he deserves. Okay? All right, here we go. Terry Abrahamson's photographs of such blues icons as Howlin' Wolf, Coco Taylor, and Freddie King, among others, illustrate his memoir, In the Belly of the Blues, about his life and times in and with the music and the musicians. Little wonder both the book and his illustrated follow-up for children, The Blues Parade, are part of the permanent collection of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Library. He won a Grammy for Bus Driver, which was one of 3 songs he wrote with Muddy Waters. With Derek Purcell, Terry wrote music recorded by Eddie Shaw, Nellie Tiger Travis, and Shamika Copeland. Terry and Derek's In the Blood of the Blues was included in her album, America's Child, which won both Album of the Year and Contemporary Album of the Year at the 40th Blues Music Awards in 2019. Terry and Derek also collaborated on 3 songs recorded by Muddy's son, Joseph Mojo Morganfield, who sadly died earlier this month at 56. At a Chicago Blues Hall of Fame inductee, his music has been performed by 5 Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, not only Waters, but also Prince, Joan Jett, Clarence Clemens, and John Lee Hooker. Terry also wrote the television ad that killed Morris the Cat, created Filmdom's first lesbian love song, and wrote for Oprah Winfrey and Michael Jackson. Monty Python and Cheech and Chong. Sting demanded that he be fired from A&M Records. He may be the only person to have his work presented by the Blues Hall of Fame in Memphis, the National Blues Museum in St. Louis, the Delta Blues Museum in Clarksdale, Mississippi, the DuSable Museum of African American History in Chicago, the Smithsonian, and Johnnie Cochran's funeral in Los Angeles. As Terry noted in his first book, most of the musicians on these pages are gone, and we won't see their kind again, but they should be remembered and celebrated. They're part of American history and bricks in the foundation of rock and roll. We can't fill their shoes, but we can dance in their big, big footprints. Wow. I'm going to now bring on Terry Abrahamson and welcome him with a big round of applause, a virtual round of applause, and we will get this show started. Terry,
hello, how are you? I'm great, thank you.
There he is. A bit of a delay, but black screen, but there he is in all his glory. How are you, man?
I'm good. Thanks for doing this, and good. Greetings to New Jersey.
Oh, greetings. So it's going to be, just a great hour and a half. You're in Chicago, doing Chicago proud, doing the blues proud. So welcome to the Spin It Social Hour, and let's kick this off. Terry, tell us, man, the blues man that you are, about In the Belly of the Blues, how you got started with this, and let's get started with the journey, man.
I was very fortunate to have grown up when I did on the west side of Chicago. And this is the late 50s, early 60s. And keep in mind that we didn't have video games. We didn't have a computer. We didn't even have color TV. So your entertainment came when you left the house. And living on the west side of Chicago, I was very fortunate. We'd walk 2 miles to movies at Garfield Park, at the Alex Theater, see 3 movies for a quarter, get there at 10:30 in the morning, see 3 movies, a cartoon, a newsreel. And so you're walking around, you're outside, and the neighborhood was it was a changing neighborhood. And the further we walked towards downtown, the more we came in contact, and I'm 7, 8 years old, we just walked and rode our bikes. We started coming in contact with folks that didn't look like us, didn't quite sound like us when they were speaking. And when you listen to the songs that came out of the car radios, or people listening to a radio on the stoop, you heard people singing with a different kind of language. It was English, but you heard Chuck Berry singing, "The Coolerator was packed with TV dinners and ginger ale." You heard Coco Taylor singing, "We're going to pitch a wang dang doodle." You heard Muddy Waters singing, "I'm your hoochie coochie man." I didn't know their names, but I heard Coolerator was packed with TV dinners and ginger ale, and I'm thinking, somebody's got a much cooler refrigerator than I do. And then when you hear "We're going to pitch a wang dang doodle," I'm thinking, that sounds like a much cooler party than I've ever been to. And when you hear Muddy Waters sing, "I'm your hoochie coochie man," all I can think is, man, that sounds a lot cooler to say to somebody you're interested in than "You want to go out." So it kind of stuck with me. It just was absorbed. And, I didn't really think much of it other than that there was such romance to it. There was a record store right on Madison and Central next to the deli we went to, and they had a speaker that blared the music out onto the sidewalk on Madison Street, and you'd hear these songs and they sounded so cool. And I'm just thinking, when I grow up, I want to live in that record store. which I kind of wound up doing at various record stores around the city and around the country.
Right.
And so I get older, and the British invasion starts. And amazingly, you hear these bands like Savoy Brown doing "If I Don't Love You, Baby," "Grits Ain't Groceries," "Eggs Ain't Poultry," and "Mona Lisa Was a Man." And Cream singing "Could Be a Spoonful of Diamonds, Could Be a Spoonful of Gold, Just a Little Spoon of Your Precious Love Will Satisfy My Soul. I'm thinking, this is the same stuff I heard when I was a little kid 10 years ago. And it just kind of hit me deeply. And I remember I was home from college, and it was the summer of '69, and my buddy Abe calls me up. And he says to me, "Abrahamson, Illinois," and he calls me up and says, "Abrahamson, there's a band playing at the Quiet Night, this bar by Wrigley Field, and they do the Stones' Little Red Rooster. We should go see them." And I'm thinking, well, what's the name of the band? And he says, the name of the band is the Howlin' Wolf Band. That, by the way, is Mojo Morganfield, Muddy's son, and he's up there on stage with Eddie the Chief Clearwater.
Yeah, I wanted to put these up for a second to I know we got rolling on the story, but I wanted to put these up first as we talk because we wanted to honor Joe. For his passing, and we wanted to do that for him and his family. So we wanted to start off with this one. And just know that our thoughts and our prayers and everything else are with his family, and so you will go ahead and please acknowledge Joe's passing, and I'm going to be mum here.
Well, it was a sudden a shock. It was tragic. He was just on the cusp of getting everything he wanted, everything he deserved. He was the youngest performing son of Muddy Waters, and he had amazing stage presence. I mean, like you've never seen. He had a smile that could light up a city. Right. And we were very, very fortunate. Derek Procell and I, who I wrote the songs with, but I had known Muddy, as you'll hear, pretty well, but I didn't really meet Joseph till about 4 or 5 years ago, because when he was growing up, I was living out of town, and we connected. Lynn Orman Weiss, a mutual friend of ours, brought us together, and we clicked. The chemistry was great, and we just really, really developed a bond. It was just a joy to be around his enthusiasm and his passion for what he was doing. And I wound up with Derek writing 3 songs specifically for Joseph. Let's Play Chess, Mississippi Found Me, and Leave a Little Blues Behind. And they were being produced by Michael Freeman, legendary blues producer who produced actually a song I wrote with Steady Rollin' Bob Margolin, we'll hear more about. And Joseph was ready to have it. He just had a single out on Delmark Records that was doing great. It was called The King. And he just got married Labor Day weekend. And man, 2 weeks ago, died of a heart attack. And there's a big empty space in the universe.
Bless his soul, man. Bless his soul. But I read something interesting last night that in the Chicago Sun-Times that everybody should Google. If they Google Joe Morganfield and Chicago Sun-Times and Muddy Waters, they will find that very interesting that Muddy's, I'll call him Mr. Waters' old house in Chicago is being renovated into a museum. Is that correct, Terry?
That's correct. 4339 South Lake Park Avenue.
Wow.
And it's going to be called, I believe, the Mojo Museum.
Wow.
And if I might have a picture or two in it, but it's long overdue, and it's going to be a tremendous treat for blues fans, rock and roll fans.
Wow.
Muddy Waters means everything to Chicago blues to rock and roll. And this is hopefully going to be a very, very fitting tribute to a man whose footprint cannot be
Right.
talked about enough.
No, it can't. It really can't. And I'm so thankful to have met you because, this all started, by the way, Terry and I traveled to Chicago to cover the Rolling Stones Exhibitionism Memorabilia Tour. Thanks to a gentleman I work with named Emilio Pardo and the Jackson Company. And I was doing social media and visuals for them, covering the tour, going to Vegas, Chicago, New York, you name it, everywhere, Nashville. And Terry and I were in Chicago, and we bumped into each other in the room where all the posters were for the Stones. I remember that moment. And Lynn was there. And we started talking, and Terry had his book in his hands, of course, and as he should. And, we just hit it off, and I got to know him. I opened up my mail one day, and Terry sent me this beautiful book. May I read the inscription, Terry?
Go for it, buddy.
Okay. So here's the book that he sent me in the mail. And it was just beautiful. He approached me. He said, "You know what, Steph, I want to send you something." And he said, "We met Steph at the Rolling Stones Bash. He kept us jumping like old Jack Flash. Keep rocking, Steph. 4/27/17." Terry, I cherish this book, man. And I cherish you, and it's wonderful to have met you and now bring you on here to talk about your travels, your journey, and all this wonderful history about In the Belly of the Blues. So why don't you, we started off, we worked this great photo slideshow together and curated it together to make sure it's done just right. Take us into the belly of the blues, Terry.
So I was home from college. It was the summer of '69. Abe calls me up and he says, "Abrahamson, there's this band playing, the Stones' Little Red Rooster. They're going to be at a bar near Wrigley Field called The Quiet Night. We got to go see them this weekend." I said, "What's the name of the band?" He says, "The Howlin' Wolf Band." I'm thinking, well, we like a band called The Animals. Maybe we'll like a band called The Howlin' Wolf Band. We get down there. We climb the stairs at The Quiet Night. We pay our $2 to get in. Might have been $2.50. And we were underage. They didn't want to hear from us. They put us off to the side, and we were upset. There were open tables at the stage, and one of the tables had these guys there. It was 7 guys sitting there, and I'm thinking, what are they doing here? They don't look like Stones fans. Stones fans look like me. They had long hair. They were white. They were kids, and I think maybe they're the cleanup crew.
I think you may have frozen there a bit, Terry. Hold on. Terry, I think you froze a little. So if you can refresh your screen and pop back in, let's give that a shot. Pardon the interruption, folks, the technical interruption. But once again, thank you for joining us here at the Spin It Social Hour for the 37th show featuring Terry Abrahamson and In the Belly of the Blues. And please share this broadcast. Please let everybody know about it so they can learn about Terry. And let's try to bring him back on right now again. Okay, here we go. We're going to try to connect him again. Little Wi-Fi issue here, it seems like, or connectivity issue. Okay, so please bear with us. But anyway, so I met Terry in Chicago, and like I said, it was a wonderful encounter. We became friends, and we kept in touch. And, his story is just amazing, as you heard in the bio. And here he is. All right,
I'm back.
Go for it, Terry. I'm going to quiet down and let you take over.
Okay. Anyway, so these, we're looking at these guys and we're thinking, well, we're not sure what they're doing here. But anyway, some time goes by and Richard Harding, who owns the club and steps to the mic. And as I say, with all the enthusiasm of a guy giving you your carburetor estimate, he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Howlin' Wolf Band." And 6 of these 7 guys rise from this table, and they get up to the stage, and it wasn't what I expected. I expected the band, they took their instruments and they started playing. Howlin' Wolf didn't come up there. This is the top tier blues guys. Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, B.B. King. They didn't have a situation where they just get up there. They had band leaders, and the band leader for the Howlin' Wolf band, who had to get up and warm up the crowd, do 2-3 songs, get everybody ready, was a guy named Eddie Shaw, who you see there. Eddie was young, he was good looking, he got up to that mic and looked around like every woman in the world wanted to jump in the sack with him, and I bet a lot of them did. And he just starts playing. He did a song called Stoop Down Baby and Let Your Daddy See. You got something down there, it's worrying the hell out of me. And I'm thinking, I could write that. I always had a song in my head. And they did a couple of songs, and then Eddie Shaw grabs the mic and he says, ladies and gents, it's start time. The Howlin' Wolf, the Howlin' Wolf, the Howlin' Wolf. And the last guy from the table rises. And he rises, and he, in my mind, he just kept getting bigger and bigger. By the time he got to that stage, the Howlin' Wolf looked like he was 10 feet tall. And, you know, the music that the band had been doing before he came up, it was cool. It was like Chuck Berry, but if you put your finger on the record and slowed it down a little bit. And Howlin' Wolf got up there, and he did Little Red Rooster. And, you know, it sounded different from the Stones. Sounded a little bit like it, but when you saw Howlin' Wolf perform, you could see where Mick Jagger got every move, that waving the finger in the air,
right.
And, you know, and that bending down and moving around, and
right.
And he was like nobody I'd ever seen. He was just amazing, and then he did Little Red Rooster. He did Spoonful, which we knew from Cream, and he did Killin' Floor, which we knew from Jimi Hendrix, and we're thinking this guy does all our favorite band's songs.
Right.
So you go home and you start looking at the liner notes, and you start looking at the writer's credits. And what we discovered was that all these songs that we loved by the Stones, Cream, Jimi Hendrix, Howlin' Wolf did them first. And then we start digging more. And there's Howlin' Wolf, and we start digging more, and we see the Allman Brothers, Trouble No More. Muddy Waters did it first.
Wow.
And Savoy Brown's Grits Ain't Groceries.
Yeah.
Little Milton did it first. And on and on and on.
Well, that's the importance of you educating everybody about this, Terry. And I know, you know, I didn't mention this in any of the tweets or anything else, but you really are an incredible, a phenomenal educator and advocate for the blues and everything else. I mean, you've lived this. Your energy is bar none, and you know, we're very, very thankful for someone like you who goes around everywhere telling people and sharing the tales behind the wails, as you say.
Well, you know, it's important music, and if you look at where it comes from, this is not just music history. This is American history. This music goes back to people brought over here in chains, thrown into a field, and just stripped of their names, their families, their cultures, their language, and put in a field and not allowed to speak to each other. I mean, you had people from many different tribes that probably couldn't have communicated that well anyway. They were all being forced to learn English. And as I say in my kids' book, my kids' history of the Blues Parade, the mighty tribes of Africa brought halfway around the earth, given different language, different names from theirs at birth. And the mighty tribes of Africa took each new word to heart. They'd list them, then they'd twist them, turning talking into art. And so, you know, what do you do to keep your sanity when you're put in chains and you're told you can't speak to each other because the boss man thinks there's going to be, you know, an uprising, they're going to be conspiring. So they start singing to each other. He doesn't know what they're singing, but he likes that they're singing because there's a rhythm to it, and maybe that helps drive the picking of the cotton. But what they're singing is partially what they knew from before they were dumped in a field across an ocean. Right. And part of it was the English they were learning and how they twisted that English and how they maybe twisted and some words. And so what is...
Hold on, Terry, you're breaking up, I think. Let's try to fix this. Hold on one second. Terry, I think you're going to need to reload one more time. Sorry, buddy. Okay, folks, we're going to bring Terry back on in 1 second. He's having a few connectivity issues this morning, but please stay with us. These are minor interruptions. Pardon this, but it happens once in a while. Probably a lot of people in Chicago. It's very cold there. A lot of people are on the Wi-Fi network this morning and everything else. So, but we're going to nail this down for you, and we're going to continue with this great storytelling and everything else. Please don't abandon the Spin It Social Hour. Stay with us. And we're going to, we have many, many photos here to show and many stories to tell. So we're going to why don't we do some shout outs here while we're talking. Jonathan, who do we have with us today? I know we've got a lot of people watching, and we want to greetings from LinkedIn. Tim Sohn is here from Pennsylvania. William King is here. Very cool. Thank you, William, for staying with us. Ross Brand is here. Nice reset, Stefan. We're trying, Ross. We're trying, right? This is what we can do. Ross Brand, one of the bigwigs in live streaming. Edward says, what's amazing is how beautiful music like this unifies people. Something that emerged from slavery and brings all kinds of people together, regardless of political party, color, religion, race. It brings us all together as one. Brothers and sisters, the beauty of art. All right, we've got Terry back here. Hey, man. Hey, Terry.
Okay, so
all right, go ahead. Go roll with it, baby.
You're a little funky on the mic there, Steph. But
Okay, go ahead. Tell your story, Terry.
Okay, so should I keep talking?
Yes.
All right, anyway. So what you have are these people in this cotton field who have to sing just to be able to communicate with each other. And the best singers wind up being asked to sing on the weekends or when they had a break from picking cotton. And these were the singers that maybe made a little money after slavery. They would just go to juke joints, set up little pop-up places where they could perform, and they'd pass one jar around with something to drink and one jar around for tips. And the best folks, the best singers of these guys were the ones that maybe started becoming professional entertainers afterwards, but and then, they rode up out of the cotton fields and out of the South after slavery. Where you wound up depended on where the trains went. If you lived in the Western United States, in Western South, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, you took the trains out to California, or you took the trains up to Arkansas. If you lived in the eastern part of the South, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, you took the trains up along the Atlantic coast. You wound up in D.C., Philadelphia, New York, or Boston. But if you were in the heart of cotton country, if you were dumped in the Mississippi Delta, well, that train rolled out of New Orleans, went right through Mississippi, and took you to Chicago, Michigan, and 12th. And that's where all these folks from Mississippi got out of the train. And the ones that could sing, those were the blues singers, and those were the ones that wound up in the clubs. Now, when you came up from the South, you didn't have a band with you. This was like when Muddy Waters came up in the mid-'40s, and you couldn't walk into a bar and play and just be heard with a guitar and your voice. You had you had stuff going on in the streets. You had the L trains. You had ambulances going by. You had fire trucks going by, police. You had a street corner preacher thumping his Bible. Then you went into the bar and you had the bottles clinking and the glasses clinking, people dancing, people shouting, maybe a knife fight over here. You had to be heard over all that. So you had to get a microphone. You had to plug your guitar in. You had to plug a bass in. You had to get a drum kit so that beat.
Okay, folks, hold on 1 second. We're going to have Terry try to reset his actual computer.
Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Oh, there he is. Okay, go for it.
Okay. So anyway, that became the prototype for what was Muddy Waters' band, and his band became the prototype for every other blues band and the rock and roll bands. And when you see Muddy Waters, when you see that old blues band, well, you can thank him for Bruce Springsteen and Cream and U2 and the Rolling Stones and every band you see, because he put that prototype together.
Right.
And now what happens is these guys from Mississippi start performing in
Mhm.
Chicago,
Mhm.
and they perform at largely at bars that were kind of in the back of liquor stores.
Right.
And one of these liquor stores was owned by these guys, the Chess Brothers. And the Chess Brothers decide, they're going to put a bar in that they can put music in.
Right. Okay. Momentary freeze, but we will.
Chess Records. And you got Muddy Waters on Chess Records. You got Etta James eventually, Howlin' Wolf, Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley.
Mm-hmm.
And these records get played on the radio and they get heard in England. And all those bands start picking this stuff up and come back with it. And that is the British invasion. That's how I got into this. And that's how we wound up going to see Howlin' Wolf. And we would go every weekend to some bar. It could be Wise Fool's Pub. It could be, they were everywhere. There were bars on the west side, Silvio's. There's bars on the south side, Teresa's, the Checkerboard, Queen Bee's. And when we'd see these guys, remember, this is 1969, and this is the end of the civil rights movement. And we heard all through the civil rights movement, every night in the news, you hear about Mississippi and the horrors of Mississippi, the terrible, terrible things that are being done to people and had been done to people. And when we look at Muddy Waters, when we look at Howlin' Wolf, when we look at Otis Rush, what we thought was these guys made it out of Mississippi alive, and they brought us their music. So the music had weight. And there was one place we found after going to see Muddy Water, or after going to see Howlin' Wolf, that we could go, and they didn't serve liquor, so you could sit right up front. And the first guy we saw at one of these places was Muddy Waters, and we wanted to see Muddy Waters because you hear about the Stones taking their music from all these bands, and you hear about Cream taking their music from Howlin' Wolf and Skip James. Well, the Rolling Stones took more than just their songs from Muddy Waters. They took their name. He had a song called Rolling Stone, so he was a big deal to us. So we get to this place called Alice's by DePaul University, where you didn't have to buy liquor. They didn't serve liquor. It was a coffee house. And they had a narrow room, was maybe 25 feet wide, and it was a long, narrow room. And said the band was going on at 9:30. That was what it said in the newspaper. So we got there at 7 o'clock because I wanted to sit at the foot of the stage. I was with my buddy Abe and my girlfriend Denise and his girlfriend Linda. We got there at 7 o'clock for a 9:30 show, and that's the language of the blues. It means 10:15. So we were the first ones there. We were right at the stage, on the floor, foot-high stage. People come behind us. People come behind us. By 9 o'clock, I had to go to the bathroom. I couldn't get out. That's what Muddy Waters looked like. He had an afro. If you can go back a little bit, we can look at that picture with Muddy. And,
yeah, let's take everybody, because your stories are so incredible that they can just flow. Let's take everybody through some of these, starting from here.
That's a good place right there.
Yeah.
But there's one with me and Abe before that.
No.
Okay, great. So I gotta go to the bathroom, and I can't get out. People are behind us. We're right at the stage.
Right.
So I climb up on the stage, and I weave my way through the wires, and I walk around the drum kit, and I pull the curtain aside, and there I see this guy. And that's Muddy Waters, whose songs have been done by everybody. And I'm looking at him, and he seemed so regal to me. He was like the king of the world. And he's sitting there sipping champagne out of a paper cup. And behind him there, you see Willie Big Eye Smith. That was his longtime drummer, great musician. His son, Kenny Beady Eye Smith, is a very prominent bluesician now with a band called the Cashbox Kings, and also on his own. And Kenny Beady Eye Smith performed some of my music with Oscar Wilson and Billy Flynn at the opening of my blues parade Booksubition.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Wait, Oscar Wilson?
Oscar Wilson, yes.
Wow. Wait. Let me stop you here for a second. I'm mystified, and I'm also thrilled. Oscar Wilson. You mean You mean this Oscar Wilson?
Oscar Wilson, the Oscar Wilson. I'm not sure what you're looking at there.
You're not.
Is that Oscar?
That's Oscar, baby.
Oh my God, Oscar!
Hey,
Oscar, go back to bed.
You knew I was going to bring somebody special on for you, Terry.
I feel like we planned this, but we didn't.
Oh no, that was my plan, my surprise for you.
I'm an old man, Terry. I'm up at the crack of day.
You know what? If I knew you were going to have a guest on, I would have had somebody younger and not so good looking. So I would have looked better by comparison. Oscar, this is
let me ask Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson, do you have a light that you can turn on by any chance a bit?
Let's see.
Sorry to little more light, and then we can get that. Hold on, folks. Mr. Wilson is going to get a little more light going here. But no, Terry, I was going to do you right, man, and bring on somebody special, man.
Oh man, Oscar, I would have paid your light bill if I knew we were going to have to deal with this.
This is all part of the blues, right?
Oh man. I guess when the light goes on, the water goes off or something. It goes off over there.
Well, so, it is Chicago and it's cold. So Edward says, I love these surprise guests. The smiles on all the faces are wonderful. Well, Edward,
great, man. What a treat.
I did my homework. I contacted Oscar Wilson, Mr. Wilson, and I was able to track him down. I connected with him on Facebook. That's the beauty of social media. We talked, and I said, you know what? How'd you like to come on and surprise good old Terry?
Oh man, what a treat.
Yeah, that's a little better. That's a little better.
Oscar, wow, thank you.
Hey,
I had I have this my kids' book. I blew up the pages and put them on canvas, and you can walk through the book. I say it's called the Book Exhibition, and we were like the anchor for the Chicago Public Library's African American History Month celebration, and so I thought it would be great to give people a little bit of the evolution of the blues, going from the Delta blues to Chicago blues to rock and roll. And Oscar and Billy Flynn and Kenny B.D.I. Smith were there, and they performed 3 songs that kind of illustrated that. And it was a thrill of a lifetime to see legendary musicians like this being there to help me present my work.
I noticed that, Mr. Wilson, may I call you Oscar for right now?
Yeah.
Okay, Oscar, I just wanted, out of respect, I always, to a legend and a bluesman such as yourself, it's Mr. Wilson.
Legend,
but if you say Oscar, then it's Oscar. So,
okay.
Oscar, I noticed, Terry, that Oscar's got a guitar in his hand there, man. Uh-oh, we're going to be in trouble here.
Well, go, man, do something.
Well, you know how blues is. What's up top of your head?
Can you do Mr. 43rd on that?
I wish I could. But let's see here. Okay, just one second.
Sure.
He write the lyrics and I sing the songs. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Terry Abrahamson. Well, he write the lyrics, baby. Lord, and I sing the songs. Y'all know who I'm talking about this morning. I'm talking about Terry Abrahamson.
Woo! All right.
Wow, man, I could have wrote that better myself, man. Thank you.
Oh, man, that was special, man. That is going to be a Spin It Social Hour highlight to live for, man. Oh, my God, man. But, let's tell us something real quick about Oscar because, it's early in the morning. And we want to. we want to make sure he enjoys the rest of his morning. We're going to let him stay on for a little bit, as much as he wants here. But the bottom line is, Oscar, tell everybody, we want to make sure that they know where they can find you too, and talk about your relationship with Terry first. But you have something, as Terry mentioned, called the Cashbox Kings, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, well, we're gonna show everybody the place where they can find you online here. So this way, but I'm gonna let you talk about your relationship with Terry here. Go for it, Oscar.
Well, I met Terry at Shaw's Crab House in Chicago, and he was there, and he was talking to Billy Flynn. He didn't know me, and finally, I usually just, sit over in the corner because Billy is the type of guy everybody knows, him and Kenny, because they've been around longer than I have. But he finally came over and talked to me and said he'd like to, write a song or two for me. And we met at the Pancake House, the original Pancake House on 47th and Lake Park. I mean, he came up with some great songs. I didn't get to record him with the Cashbox Kings, but hopefully he wrote one that's perfect called Mr. 43rd Street, which some people call me that Mr. 43rd Street because I grew up on 43rd and Wails, which is now Muddy Waters Drive. And I lived on this side of the expressway of State Street, and Kenny lived on the other side where they stayed on the east side, and I stayed a little west. But he wrote a song for me called Mr. 43rd Street. Oh, it's fantastic. Hopefully one day I'll get to record it. I'm a little jealous of Joseph because he got to record some of his songs. And like he said, Joseph had the personality, man, when I met him. At Motor Road Brewery Company. Now I met Joseph there, man. I mean, and he was, we got to be real good friends. He called me Big Brother, And me and Terry, we met a couple of times and we've had breakfast, and we hung out. And he's just a walking book of knowledge because my father was a blues man, but he passed away 2 months before I was born. So I guess somehow inherited the blues from him. Nobody, my brothers and them didn't pick it up. I guess it was just me, but. Some of the stuff he was telling me about the things that he did, I'm like, wow, and, but as a little guy, Elmo James, Junior Wells, Honey, Boy Edwards, what y'all call him, we called him Honey Man because he couldn't call a grown man boy. Mm-hmm. We called him Mr. Honey Man. Mm-hmm. They used to all come to my house and play in Big Smokey Smothers. A lot of them. So, and with the Cashbox Kings, I got with them, on a real fluke but been with them I think 11, 12 years now.
Okay.
And you can go to cashboxkings.com.
Yep. That's right.
And buy T-shirts, caps, and albums. Yep. I have a special cap out now.
Wow, look at that, Oscar. Ross Brand, one of the big live streamers out there and a very good friend of mine. What a great guy. Learn more about Oscar Wilson right here. He put up the full URL, which we were showing on the bottom there, but thank you so much, Ross. Ross said earlier something about the blues that he started listening when he was young, like 13 or 14. So, the blues is loved. It's wow. I mean, it's American history, right? It's history here, man. And, having you and Terry on here to educate so here's Ross Brand. He said, when I was 13 or 14, when I first heard Howlin' Wolf, one of the all-time greats. But now to have you on here, too, talking, thank you so much for being here, Mr. Wilson.
Hey, thanks for having me. Far back as I can remember, I was like maybe 3 years old, and, I was a little kid. I loved it. I used to just all stand there and watch, But I didn't know these guys were stars. They just come to the house eating fish and spaghetti. I didn't know they were stars. Now that I was in the presence of greatness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys could fill up days and days of stories, man.
Terry can't. Yeah. I'm actually a newbie. That's all I got.
Oh man!
But until lately, when I got to meet a few people, Pine Top and
Sure.
Lord, Henry Gray
Sure.
and Magic Slim, a bunch of them. But I was just a kid, and these guys were playing. I didn't know they was
right. You wanna hold your guitar? Can you sit back a little more with the guitar and hit us with something as we go out here and
okay.
We're gonna have to.
Since we talked about Mississippi,
hit us with something, and then we're gonna let you enjoy the rest of your day, man.
Down in Mississippi where the cotton grows tall, get arrested for trouble, they got to call the hunting dogs. Well, down in Mississippi, baby, oh yeah, where the cotton grows tall. And on the other hand, baby, Bo Weaver went overall.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much.
Hey,
everybody, Mr. Oscar Wilson, check him out at cashboxkings.com. Get some T-shirts, get some hats, get some music. Stay happy and enjoy the blues. Yes, Mr. Wilson.
Let me tell you about this one cap that I got.
Please.
It's a thing I invented. Well, I guess I started. I always say it in my shows when I'm ending. Oh, yeah, keep it bluesy. So I'm now selling caps with keep it bluesy on it, Cashbox Kings on the back. So you can go to that site and purchase some of these. That'll help us during this pandemic. Haven't worked since March.
Oh man! Well, hold on one second, and we're going to do better than that. We're going to make sure that everybody can see what we're talking about here, full screen. There's the hats, folks. Cashbox Kings, but look at that one on the right. Keep it bluesy.
Yeah.
Oscar just said the truth there, right there. Dr. Chitachi in the house, Media Scope. She says, yes, support the blues, support Oscar Wilson, help them through this pandemic, folks. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
All right, Mr. Wilson. We'll get you soon.
Oscar, thanks, man. This was I like the first song you did better, but but thank you, man. What a treat to see you on here. Really means a lot. Thank you.
Man, get with me, man. So we can have breakfast again.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart, Mr. Wilson. Bless your heart.
Nice.
All right. Take care now,
Mr. 43rd.
Okay.
Keep it bluesy, y'all. Keep it bluesy.
Keep it bluesy, baby. Keep it bluesy. Okay. All right. We're going to what fresh music air this morning made my day energizing, says Edward. So we're gonna anyway, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and everything else, Terry.
Thank you. Okay. So that was fabulous. Thank you, man.
You're welcome.
Oscar is a rare and beautiful talent. He is just he's a gift. Derek and I wrote Mr. 43rd for him. We also wrote a song called Oily in the Morning.
Right.
And so anyway, so I get backstage. I pull the curtain aside, and there's Muddy, and that crutch behind Willie Big Eye Smith is Muddy's. He had been in a terrible car accident several months earlier, crushed his pelvis. I believe some of the people in the accident died, and he was just starting to perform again. But this is what he did, and nothing was going to stop him. And so I just said to him, hey, man, can I use your bathroom? And he said, right over there, go right ahead. And I was like paralyzed. This guy was, like I said, he was like a king to me. And in the bathroom, and on the way out, I probably said 3 or 4 times, man, I love your music. And every time Muddy came to Alice, I went to the bathroom. And we started going to Alice's to see these guys because we could sit way up front, right at the stage. And and Muddy was amazing. He was an amazing performer, and he was a sweet guy, really regal. And so we saw Howlin' Wolf there. We saw Otis Rush there. I saw Big Mama Thornton there, Buddy Guy. And they all had bands. One guy didn't have a band. This guy here. This is Jim Brewer. Jim Brewer was led to the stage That's all you got is what you see there. He was led to the stage. They'd sit him in a chair at the mic. They'd hand him his guitar. He would do a set, and then they would take his guitar from him, lead him off the stage. He had a white film over his eyes. We called him Blind Jim Brewer. And he was terrific. And so the following fall, after going to see these guys all summer, and my eyes being open and just falling in love with this music, I joined a group of guys at the University of Illinois, and we called it Blues Power, and we put up our own money to do some blues shows. Jim Brewer was the second show we did, but the first show was with Furry Lewis. Furry Lewis and harmonica Frank Floyd. Furry Lewis is a significantly historic character. He was a street sweeper in Memphis. And the value in learning about this is he was a member of the Memphis sanitation workers. And as history tells us, in the winter of 67 and 68, the Memphis sanitation workers, mostly African-American men, might have been all African-American men, they hauled the garbage, they swept the streets, they had terrible working conditions. They weren't getting paid nearly what you would need to make a living wage. They went on strike. The city wouldn't move. They wouldn't meet them halfway. In April of 1968, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. came down to Memphis to stand in solidarity with the Memphis sanitation workers. And it was while he was there outside his room at the Lorraine Motel that he was shot dead. The Lorraine Motel is now, of course, the centerpiece of the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis. You should go visit it. And so Furry had had a lot of weight to me. The second show we produced was Jim Brewer, Blind Jim Brewer, and Hound Dog Taylor. This is Hound Dog Taylor. Hound Dog Taylor was a character. He had 11 fingers. He had a little mini-me for his pinky that kind of came out next to his pinky. It had its own little nail. He kept the bottleneck on the regular pinky, but that was the sight to behold. And his band was the House Rockers. He had Brewer Phillips on guitar. I think we got a picture of Brewer Phillips coming up.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
There's Brewer Phillips, great guitar player. And there, there's Brewer. And Brewer Phillips could rival Howlin' Wolf's guitar player Hubert Sumlin in the dental disaster category, but a great guitar player. Let's go back to that kissing shot. Let's stay on that. That's Ted Harvey. That is Hound Dog Taylor's drummer. And he was also a lifeguard. Here he is backstage practicing his mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on a fan. And so here's what happens. I come back to Chicago and after producing a couple of shows with a bunch of these guys, and I'm like an evangelist for the blues. I would go to every party with my own blues albums. Some people would listen. Most people would say, nah. I graduated from college. My mother didn't want me living at the house because she said I looked like Charles Manson. Abe finds me an empty fraternity house for him and I to live in. They were renting out rooms at Northwestern at this empty fraternity house for $1 a night. And I would go up and down the halls playing my blues records. One guy listened. His name was Ted Kurland. Ted was living in Boston, going to Brandeis University, where he had produced a mountain concert. Rest in peace, Leslie West. And he said he was, he calls me a few months later, and I had taken him that summer of 72 to Homesick James' house. I took him to a lot of shows. He calls me up and he says, you know these guys, right? I said, yeah. He says, I'm starting a talent agency in Boston. I'm booking jazz acts. Why don't you bring these blues guys out from Chicago, get them gigs, partner up with me? And I did. And he came back to Chicago to drive out with me the night of July 4th, 1973. Abe, Ted, and I get in my Chevy Malibu with everything I owned in the backseat. We drive to Boston. We drive 21 hours. We get there the night of July 5th, 1973, 9 o'clock at night. We don't unload the car. We don't eat. We don't wash up. We double park in front of a blues club. It was a broken down little place, but a legendary place. It was called Joe's Place. Nailed to the front door was a torn piece of brown cardboard from a cardboard box, and written on it was "Tonight, Sonny, Terry, and Brownie McGee." Let's go back to George. We go into the club. Sonny and Brownie aren't up yet. This guy is up there. He had hitchhiked up from Delaware to play for drinks, to open for Sonny and Brownie.
For drinks.
For drinks. He's got a harmonica rack and an acoustic guitar. He filled that room with more music than I'd ever heard anybody.
Wow.
He played Hank Williams. He played Chuck Berry. He played everybody.
Wow.
And man, I thought this guy was fantastic. He played a lot of Robert Johnson.
Yeah.
And I called the bar the next day and I said, who was that guy? We booked some Hound Dog Taylor shows. I can get him on as an opening act in this club. And they said, well, his name is Thorogood and he's from Delaware. And we looked up directory assistants. We find George Thorogood. I call his mother. That was the number in directory assistants. Okay. And I saw George about 3 years ago at a theater in Aurora, Illinois, no, St. Charles, Illinois. And I was backstage with him. And he takes me into a room and he tells this story just like I do. It was amazing to hear him tell the same story from his perspective. He said he just hitchhiked back from Boston. He was in his bedroom with two of his buddies. He's 22. He says, I can't make a living at this blues thing. I got to go to trade school. And he, as he says it, the phone rings and she yells, George, there's a guy on the phone for you. His name is Terry. And he says he can get you a shot opening for Hound Dog Taylor. George grabs the phone. I said, well, can you get up and do these shows? The club won't pay much. They'll pay you $10 a night. And we take a 15% commission out of that. So you'll make $850. Great. Let me check my schedule. We might have a problem. I said, what kind of problem? He says, I play baseball. He says, we'll see if you got a game that weekend. He comes back on the phone. All right, I don't have a game. I said, great. When can you be here? He says, well, we might have a problem. I said, I thought you could make it. He says, well, I got no money to get up there.
Oh, gee.
So don't worry. We Western Unioned him money for a train ticket to Boston. I said, great. When can you be here? He says, well, we might have a problem. I said, what is it now? He says, I got no place to stay when I get up there. So for a while in the summer of 1973, George Thorogood slept on our couch in Boston. Wow. And we got him a few gigs, and he did open for Hound Dog Taylor. And then I think it's time to bring Jim Brewer. Yeah. There's Jim.
Hey, let's just speaking of bringing acts on and everything else. Let's just, because we're at the 11 o'clock mark, we're going to go on here because I want you to tell all the stories. Great. I just need to mention a couple of things real quick. Let me just mention that once again, this is the Spin It Social Hour. This is our 37th show, folks, and we are it's wonderful to be here with everybody, sharing these wonderful photos and stories. Terry is going to talk about this, but he was an eyewitness to history that happened to have a camera in his hands, and this is what it's about. And I wanted to bring him on to tell all these stories and show all these photos. But we're doing this. We're able to bring this great show to you week after week, thanks to the technology of StreamYard. And I want to give a big shout out to StreamYard and everything else. But first, let's read Edward's comment here. Mr. 43rd Street. I love the nickname. I love stories on how people get those names. Reminds me of all the steelworker nicknames I have heard in my personal photo projects. Lots of history behind the names. Yep. So StreamYard is the platform of choice that I use. So here's my sponsor for the show, one of my sponsors. All right. So StreamYard, thank you for being a sponsor of the show. Thank you for this incredible technology, Gage and Dan and the StreamYard team. Shout outs to everybody. Happy New Year to you guys. And now, Terry, go for it. Tell us. Hold on one second. You're breaking up. Let's bring you back.
So you got one act, it's a show. You got two acts, it's a festival. All right. I book all these gigs. I book like 5 weeks of gigs for Blind Jim Brewer, and George is on some of the shows. And George, there's no direct train from Chicago to Boston. So I drive down 220 miles to pick Blind Jim Brewer up at Penn Station, leave the car out front, go get Jim. We're walking back to the car. We're 75 miles from the car, 75 yards from the car. I've got his guitar in one hand, his suitcase in the other. He's holding my arm. We're 75 yards from my car. He stops. He points at my car. Blind Jim Brewer says, "Oh, you still got that red car?" I said, "What?" He says, "The red car with the white top. That's what used to drive me around in Chicago." I said, "Jim, I thought you were blind." I got 5 weeks of work for you as blind Jim Brewer. He says, well, I got cataracts, but that's not really the language of the blues, so we say blind. So for 5 weeks, I'm biting my nails down to the elbows thinking, I'm going to be run out of Boston as some charlatan booking this guy as blind, and he's not blind, but it worked out okay. One night we're at Dean Junior College. That's a shot at Jim in Vermont. He loved the outdoors. He loved nature, and he loved Niagara Falls. But one night we're driving back from Franklin, Massachusetts, Dean Junior College, Jim Brewer, George Thorogood and I. Jim Brewer says, did you see that woman in the audience in the red dress? I'd surely like to plug into her. So I just start vamping. Like I said, I always had a song in my head and a camera in my hand. And I just start going, the men call me Jim, the women call me Electric Man. When I plug into your socket, I'll charge you like no one else can. And Jim says, that's good, boy. You ought to give that to Muddy Waters. So I said, really? Well, it had something. See, these, like I said, you've got going back to those days in the cotton field. You had people that had to kind of reinvent themselves, that kind of had to find a way to elevate their self-esteem, to elevate, how they were perceived, and all this, changing the language, coming up with names that made you sound like a big deal. T-Bone Walker, Howlin' Wolf, Lightning Hopkins. Calling your refrigerator a coolerator. I'm cool. I'm important. I'm a big deal. And so anyway, this all figures into where the idea for Electric Man came from.
Right.
And so a couple weeks later, Muddy comes to town. He's at a place called Paul's Mall, legendary nightclub in Boston. I go backstage. He sees me. He knew my face. Didn't know my name. He said, what are you doing? You're a long way from home. I said, well,
Hold on, Terry. We're breaking up a little. We want everybody to hear this.
That's fine.
Okay, hold on one second.
Okay.
All right. Let me try something here. Hold on
Sure.
1 second. Let's try one thing here. Hold on. We're going to try this. Okay. All right, go for it.
Okay, so I'm backstage with him, and he knew my face, didn't know my name, and I said, Jim Brewer says you should hear this song. He closes the door, puts his champagne cup down, puts his hands on his knees, says, lay it on me. And I go, the men call me Muddy, the women call me Electric Man. When I plug into your socket, I'll charge you like no one else can. He says, that's good, boy, write that down. And I did, and after that, he knew my name. He knew my first name. And and I got to know him. And there we are backstage. Let's see if we got that shot here. But let's see. Yeah. So anyway, we spent a lot of time together. And after his shows, at 1 o'clock in the morning, whenever he was in Boston, we'd walk down the street to a bar named that was called Ken's Pub. We'd go in the back where it was dark, and he'd say, get the napkins, boy. And I'd go to the bartender, and I'd get a stack of cocktail napkins, and I'd come back to the table, and it was dark. And by the light of a candle, we'd bounce song ideas off of each other, me and Muddy Waters. And I'd write the song ideas down on the cocktail napkins. And we came up with a few more. One more song that we did there he is backstage, and it was a thrill to just be able to hang out with him back there. He was a regal man. He had a soul as deep as the ocean. And so Ted Curlin, who had brought me out to Boston, one night Jim Brewer staying at our house, and he says to Jim, you are so funky. You're the man who put the unk in funk. I thought, that's kind of cool. So I wrote another song called Unk and Funk. And I run that by Muddy, and it had that same kind of swagger. Baby, I ain't no small time. I ain't no punk. My name is Muddy Waters, and I put the unk in funk. And both of those songs wound up, there we are having dinner. That's left to right. Ted Curlin, who brought me out to Boston, still one of my closest pals. Muddy's friend, Katie Coleflat, next to him. And then there's Muddy eating my chicken. Muddy's son Charles is next to Muddy. I'm sitting there with that mustache. Looks like I got a squirrel stapled to my lip. And The guy in the front lived upstairs with an inflatable love doll and a loaded gun, and we tried to minimize our contact with him.
Absolute history, man. History. What an incredible
Yeah, and so
story.
here's Muddy. This is Muddy at Paul's Mall. There's Willie Big Eye Smith on the right, whose son is playing with Oscar. There's Mojo Buford on the left.
So, Terry, let me ask you a question as
Yeah.
we're going through all these photos. You know, the interesting thing is, you know, as I'm always talking to photojournalists and everything, and we all know, being in the field, that it's about getting to know your subjects and being there with them time and time again for a while, even doing long-term projects and becoming that fly on the wall, becoming that person that's just part of the family, of the group, of the tribe, whatever, you know, I'm saying tribe in our tribe in general. It's just amazing to me. I mean, because you were there living this with them, that here you are. I mean, what were you using to take some of these pictures?
Man, you know, that first color shot you saw in Muddy, I had an Instamatic with a little flash cube that spun around the top. This
Wow.
one, most of these black and white ones, I was using a Minolta SLR.
Okay.
And, you know, I didn't know from ASA. I didn't know from this. I didn't know from that. But I got the pics. And,
You did, man. You filled a whole book up with beautiful pics, you know?
And as the Chicago Historical Society, now the Chicago History Museum, the curator there told me what makes these pictures special. Because I'm not a professional photographer, and I never said I was. I was a fan with a camera. But
Right.
he said I had unique access.
You
know,
did.
There's a lot
man.
of great stage shots, but the backstage shots are the money shots in most cases.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the emotion, you know, and everything that you captured on Muddy's face in these photos, and being there with him while he's strumming and he's playing the blues, man, and they're getting down, you know. I mean, look at these shots. I mean, what you know, the thing is, you had them in your closet for a long time, as I read in your bio at the beginning. And they were dog-eared and they were dusty, and you cleaned them up and got this book together. I mean, you've given the world a gift here, and I hope that this book ends up in every library and educational institution around, you know?
Well, thank you. You know, it was right place, right time. Robert Gordon. There's Bob Margolin, who set us up. Bob Margolin was Muddy's guitar player, great guitar player, and I'm still writing songs with him. Beautiful cat. Robert Gordon was doing Muddy's bio about 20 years ago, and you're doing a book, and you say, "Who else should I talk to?" And Bob says, "Call Terry." He was always taking pictures.
Right.
And I took the box down with all the dog-eared, dusty pictures, and he used a few in his book. He used a few in his documentary. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame contacted him. They wanted to buy my negatives. And I thought maybe I got something here. And now we got a book. There's Pine Top Perkins, Muddy's second legendary piano player. And a guy that played till he was 99. There's Mojo Buford. One of his harp players. And there's Mojo with David Maxwell on the left, a local blues pianist from Boston, one of the great blues pianists in the history of the blues. He sounded like Otis Spann, who was Muddy's first legendary blues pianist. Fuzz Jones. And who else we got?
All right, let's make sure we get them all. I love this photo. I love this photo, man.
This is backstage at the Bottom Line in Greenwich Village. Left to right, from the middle, we've got Antra Bolton, who everybody knew as Bo. He was Muddy's half brother, I think, bodyguard, road manager, incredible guy. Had a big presence. Going around clockwise, we see on the left Fuzz Jones, his bass player, guitar junior, Luther Johnson, his guitar player. Upper right there at 1 o'clock is Willie Big Eye Smith and Mojo Buford with the hat.
Wow.
It was a treat to be with these guys. I drove with those guys. I loved it. There's Hollywood Fats, a different kind of blues background. He was the son of a very well-to-do Beverly Hills orthodontist. He never would have missed a meal, and from the looks of him, I don't think he did. But from the time he was 14 and 15, he had his mom take him down to hear the blues in Compton and Inglewood. He left home as a teenager to go play with Albert King, John Lee Hooker, wound up with Muddy when he was 21, 22. He was an incredible guitar player, played like B.B. King.
So hold on one second. We're having a little audio again. Terry's going to be back in a
There's
sec.
Hound Dog Taylor holding up two of his 11 fingers with Katie, Muddy's girlfriend, and Muddy. Luther Snake Johnson, another Luther Johnson guitar player, is in the back under the hat.
Wow. Hey, let's have that last comment up. That was a really long and in-depth comment.
You're breaking up a little bit. It's a little hard to hear you, Steph.
Okay.
We can just keep rolling here.
Okay. No, hold on one second. Amy says, great storytelling, Terry. Very cool that you took photos of your adventures. I worked at Kingston Mines in 1974 when so many great shows were happening, and I didn't take a single picture. Wow.
Those were the years, man. He does an eyewitness to history for sure.
Yeah. But tell, in case you broke up a little, tell what's going on here in this photo,
This
Terry.
is Hound Dog Taylor backstage with Muddy at Paul's Mall in Boston. Left to right, you've got Hound Dog Taylor holding up two of his 11 fingers. Luther Snake Johnson asleep under the hat. Muddy's girlfriend, Katie. There's Muddy and Muddy's champagne bottle.
No, we love these intimate photos, man. They're just phenomenal. I mean, you get a real look.
Close up a Hound Dog.
Hound Dog right there, man.
There's backstage with two guys band we worked with, Sunnyland Train, and I think there was an Elmore James song they took their name from. Steve Brown in the white sweater, and on the right is Bob Frank from Cleveland, who I'm in touch with. He is a terrific guitar player and musicologist. Bob Frank, please check him out.
Okay.
And they're trying to get a lesson there. Steve, Bob did play harmonica. There's a close-up of Big Walter. And there's Big Walter coming up to jam with Muddy. He had played with Muddy years and years earlier as part of his band. And there's James Cotton, who was a big star in Boston in his own right. He could put 1,000 people in a room if there was room. And he idolized Muddy, and he played harmonica on a song I did later on that wound up on an album called Hard Again. We'll talk about that as soon as we see Johnny Winter.
I love this photo for it's something about it's the way James Cotton is looking over at Muddy.
Yeah.
Just the real oh man, what a vibe in this photo, man.
Yes.
What a vibe in this photo. Tremendous,
Definitely. Tremendous. And there's a picture, a close-up of Cotton. This is one of my favorites.
Yep. I love that. Great stuff, man.
His little Bo. This guy was about 5'1", 5'2". He played the baritone sax. He might be playing tenor there, it looks. And he played with Howlin' Wolf, and he played with James Cotton. When I saw him, he was there as part of Cotton's band.
Okay.
And here's backstage. Everybody came to play with Muddy. Everybody came to pay homage to Muddy. Here we are backstage at the Rhode Island Blues Festival, 1975 or 6. There's Coco Taylor and Freddie King coming by to say hi to Muddy. And there's Coco Taylor when she got up to play. What a force. What a presence she had. And a sweet, sweet, wonderful woman. There's Coco. And here she is with John Lee Hooker, who also was on this festival, came back to see Muddy. And
wow. I mean, I love when you kept some of these. Emilio Pardo says, who's also a sponsor of this show with Real Talk Live from the Barn. We're going to show a clip in a bit. Great historical perspective, says Emilio. And Emilio's a well-known brand strategist with big companies. I tell you, man, this photo here, see, I love when people print negatives like this and show the actual, frames like this, because it gives it so much feel,
Thank you.
No, just great. What a great combo of images.
Beginner's luck. Here's Paul Butterfield came back to say hi to Muddy at the same show. And here we are, Muddy and Freddie King sitting in some kind of a van or whatever they had there backstage. And I'm not sure if you can see it here, but you can see it when you get the book. It's the shag rug on the dashboard, and I believe on the roof, on the ceiling as well, not the roof.
Oh yeah, no, I people can see it. I made sure I
cool.
toned this photo just right.
Thank you. I got old eyes.
No, it's good. No problem.
Good. Great.
Man, no worries.
There's Freddie getting up to play. An amazing guy, a great smile, and a legendary guitar player gone too soon.
Well, I got to tell you, we've kept an incredible crowd here, and we're going to continue. There's been some viewership here. We have over 100 comments, I think, 30 live viewers earlier and more, and people are just loving these photos and stories. But, we've got a lot to cover here. I love this
Taj
one.
Mahal and Muddy.
Yeah. Look at that, man. What a beautiful smile he had, man. What a beautiful smile.
It was from the beauty inside him.
It was.
Here's one of my favorite.
Tell us about this, Terry. Yeah, tell us about this.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite songwriters. This is Terry Abrahamson, and he's backstage somewhere with Muddy Waters' guitar, and not many people got to hold that guitar. And it was part of the Metropolitan Museum of Art exhibit. I think last year, actually, and it was in a case, and I wept twice at that exhibit. I wept when I saw that, and I wept when I saw the guitar that Jeff Beck played Heart Full of Soul on with the Yardbirds.
Well, that was the thing when we met in Chicago and we were at the Rolling Stones exhibitionism tour. I tell you, that was a phenomenal tour. To see all that history and the clips that they had lined up. The Rolling Stones exhibitionism tour was something to see. I hope they do it again one day so everybody else can see it. But the guitars that were lined up that they showed and all that, wow, it was incredible. So what an honor. Look at you holding that. I love it, man. I love it.
There we are. There's George Thorogood. This is one other song I had recorded while I lived in Boston. George had been playing acoustic, but he wanted to bring his buddies up from Delaware, Ron Smith on guitar and Jeff Simon on drums. He wanted to record with the Destroyers, as he called them. And in 1974, my partner Ted, Herb, our third partner, Herb, he and I wrote a Boston Celtics fight song. It was the official fight song of the Boston Celtics. And we decided we'd press it into a record. They put the words in the program. The organ player played the song every game. But we brought George up and he recorded the fight song with his buddies, Ron and Jeff. That was the first vinyl recording of the Delaware Destroyers. It was a Celtics fight song. It was done under the name the Boston Basketball Band. George didn't want to use his real name because he said he'd be famous someday. And he is. And thank you, George. Absolutely. So anyway, all these guys came backstage to pay homage to Muddy and to jam with him. One guy had more on his mind. This is Johnny Winter. He wanted to take Muddy away from Chess Records and put him on Columbia and make him the big deal he deserved to be. And, that was Johnny's label, the label of Billy Joel, Barbra Streisand, Bob Dylan. And so these are backstage at the bottom line when they kind of shook hands on the deal. And Muddy says to me, I'm doing an album with Johnny Winter. Get the napkins, boy. So I got all the napkins that I'd scribbled the song ideas on. And one of them went, my baby rode off with a bus driver. It just don't seem right. He was giving her rides in the daytime. Now she gives him rides at night. And, that became the longest song on his best-selling album. So I got a piece of a Grammy. I got a certificate on my wall. I didn't get the statue or the little gold gramophone, but I got that. And now this guy figures prominently because he was Matt Guitar Murphy. I took this when we were shooting, or when James Cotton had come to play with Muddy in Boston. But in the summer of 1979, he was back in Chicago because the Blues Brothers were shooting their movie. And one day I'm backstage with Muddy at Chicago Fest. The Blues Brothers come backstage. And Muddy had his arm around me and he introduced me. And, Muddy had about 50 guys he referred to as his white sons. But I was the guy that was there that day. So he says, this is my white son, Terry. He wrote Bus Driver. I always say not one of Muddy's 500 best songs, but I wrote 3 songs with him, and Dan Aykroyd says, Bus Driver, I love that song. And I was floored, but great. And he says, listen, we're shooting this movie in town. We bought a bar. We're hanging out at this bar. It's in Old Town. It's called the Sneak Joint. Come by and hang out. The next weekend, I went by, hung out. He's there alone at the bar when I walk in. He's tending bar. He reaches down. He pulls out a big shoebox full of marijuana, puts it on the bar. I figure that's our entertainment for the afternoon. But the door kicks open. In comes Belushi. He yells, who wants to go to a Bear game? He was just like you would picture him. Loud, boisterous, lovable. And I went to a Bear game with John Belushi. We got in some big old four-door sedan that they'd been using in the movie, I think. We're driving down Lakeshore Drive. He's banging his arm on the door, yelling at everybody, having the time of his life. We wound up sitting in the press box with Mary Jane Byrne for the first half of the game. It was an exhibition game. His hand was numb from shaking hands and signing autographs. So we left. But that's my Blues Brothers story.
What a Blues Brothers story it is.
Matt Murphy is in the movie. He plays Aretha's husband.
Wow, what an incredible story, man. Incredible. Who do we have here?
We have here backstage again, 1979 at the Quiet Night where I'd first seen Muddy. Howlin' Wolf. I'm sorry, Howlin' Wolf in 1969, 10 years earlier. And Muddy says to me between sets, he says, "Don't say nothing, boy, but the Stones is supposed to show up." And there we are. Willie Dixon was there on the right with their manager in the middle. Let's go back to that for 1 second. Scott Cameron, he managed both of them. And this was Willie Dixon's first time out in public after having his leg amputated at the knee for diabetes. So it was a very dramatic night. Now we can go see the kids. And Muddy was with his last bunch of kids here. The lady in profile behind those two kids on the left is Marva, also known as Sunshine, his last wife. You could see Muddy's holding those little kids, and he looked pretty exhausted. I get it. And so a couple minutes later, the door opens. This guy appears in a doorway. He looks around. He doesn't say anything. And Keith Richard walks in. He sees Muddy. He gets a little smile on his face. He's got a cigarette hanging from his lip by one grain of tobacco. And he bounces like a marionette on strings across the floor to Muddy. He drops to his knees in front of Muddy. He takes Muddy's hand in both of his, and Keith Richards kisses the back of Muddy Waters' hand. Never says a thing. And that was a memory. And a few minutes later, Mick comes in. He's looking at Willie Dixon there from the side. Willie Dixon's on the right. That's his silhouette. And I like to think that Mick is saying, "Thanks for Little Red Rooster. And I just want to make love to you."
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And then everybody else came in. Bill Wyman wasn't there. We see Ronnie Wood and Charlie Watts, and there's Keith in the middle. And they're all hanging out. And then Muddy grabs the mic. Well, there's, by the way, I'm sorry. There's Mick with Willie Dixon's daughter, Shirley. She is no longer alive, but she had a beautiful, beautiful smile. And I think you can see right here, look at this champagne toast with Muddy's champagne. And look at Willie and Shirley. You think those two are related? Look at those smiles.
Man, yeah. You could tell they're your father and daughter.
Yes, it was 11 o'clock at night, and it was as bright as if the sun was out with those.
I love it. I love his hat too. I love his hat.
Yes, it's a great hat. And there's Mick and Keith just hanging out.
Yep. No, far be it. Keith with a cigarette in his mouth.
Yes, that cigarette had a filter. And then Muddy takes the stage after Willie Dixon come up and done a song. Willie sits down, and Muddy says, "Where are my friends? Mick, Charlie, Keith, Ronnie." And the Stones come up to the bandstand, and within the maybe 30 seconds, the temperature of the room went up 30 degrees. And I shot all my film. I shot all my film backstage, and I'm yelling, "Anybody got a roll of film? Anybody got a roll of film?" And a guy named Mark Pokempner, a pretty well-known photographer, says, "Here, you want to roll a slide film?" I never shot slide film in my life. I didn't even know if it was going to work. I didn't know. I got to look at the box to figure out the ASA.
Right.
But God bless.
So wait, these were shot with chromes.
Yes, these were all shot with slide film, whatever you call it.
Yeah, chromes. Wow, that's great, man. You could really tell the difference. I mean, the energy in the room, like you said, must have been the heat. It must have risen 100 degrees in minutes.
It was pretty amazing.
Wow.
So these are all the shots. There's steady rolling Bob Margolin up there, and you can see he's still leading the band, even with the Stones up there. Muddy kept him up there to keep things going.
I'm going to say it. He has from that side profile, you could almost mistake him and, say I'm wrong, fine, but you could mistake him for Dylan.
It's been said.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
Yes.
Wow, look at this, man.
Yeah, and they did all Muddy's hits. They did, whatever you can do in 35 minutes. They did Baby Please Don't Go, I'm a Man, Hoochie Coochie Man, Got My Mojo Working. It was great. And there's no video. There's no video of these nights.
Man,
the video you see the video that's been seen of Muddy and the Stones is from 2 years later, 1981 at the Checkerboard Lounge. Yeah,
I've seen some of those. Yeah. I would play them, but if we did, we'd be in copyright violation. So I don't want to have that problem. Okay. But look at Mick Howlin there. Wow, look at this. And then we get to B.B. King, right?
So anyway, I move out to Boston, to San Francisco. It's 1980. I become the music supervisor on Levi's. And this, the great thing about California in 1980 was it was the only place you could get vanity plates. And this is my vanity plate.
Wow, look at that, man.
In 1980. And this was on my car. And I lost one, but I got one. There it is. And so I thought I'm going to write a song called "License to Sing the Blues." See, Terry Abrahamson wouldn't fit on a license plate. Muddy Waters wouldn't fit, but B.B. King fit. So I thought I'll write a song called "License to Sing the Blues." I've got the cover art, and B.B. King comes to town, and we had recorded the demo, and I borrowed the nicest boombox I can from the advertising agency, fast talk my way in through the stage door, fast talk my way to the road manager. I tell him what I got. He says, "You got 3 minutes to talk to B.B. King." I go into the dressing room. This is me and B.B. and my girlfriend Denise, maybe about 12 years earlier in 1970 at her prom, we went to see B.B. King. And so I might even have brought that picture. I said, I write for Muddy. I got a song, I got something for you. And I put the boombox on the table and I start playing it. He's got a woman on each knee. His name's is in diamonds in rings on his hands. And I push the button and the boombox starts playing. And BB looks at this boombox mesmerized. And he says, "Get my band." His band comes in. He says to the band, "This is the one." And the band is going crazy. They're checking the signs. "That's the one. That's the one." I love that. And the drummer says, "That's the one." The bass player says, "That's the one." The backup guitar player says, "That's the one." And B.B. King says to me, "I've been looking for something like this forever." And I'm thinking, I sold a song to B.B. King. And I said, "You really? You mean it?" And he said, "Indeed, I do. I have to have this." I said, "Really?" He says, "Yes, sir."
Oh, hold on, Terry. Terry, let's step back for a second and
I said, "Well, it's not mine." He says,
hold
"Well,
on,
we're done here."
Hold on one second, Terry.
And step back, left.
Yeah, step back and recount that.
I was crushed, but I made a short film out of it, and it's called "How Blue Can You Get?" And it's the film of me trying to sell a song to B.B. King. It's a fictionalization. I changed the name, but it was a cool experience, and I got to use a couple of blues singers in cameos. I think we saw that pic. Brewer Phillips and Lefty Diz are in the video.
Okay,
there they are. They're there.
Hey, Terry, could you just do me a favor, though?
I'm sorry. I'm having a little trouble hearing you, Steph.
Okay, hold on one second here.
Okay.
Let's try to repair that. Hold on one second.
It's still kind of a little hard to hear what you're saying.
Okay.
But let's just keep going, huh?
Yeah, no problem. How about
now?
Now?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Terry, can you do us a favor, please?
Sure.
And just step back for a second and tell that wonderful, incredible story once again about the last minute that you told about BB, because it really was worth it and you were breaking up a bit at that point.
Okay. So I go backstage and BB is sitting there and he's got a woman on each knee, his name in diamonds on rings, and I got this song on the boombox and I'm dying to play it for him. And I put the boombox down on the table and BB's looking at it and I start playing it. And as soon as the music comes out, he says, "I love this. Get my band." And the road manager goes and gets the band. The band comes in, and BB says, "This is the one, man. This is the one." And he turns to the band, and he says to the band, "Is this the one?" And the bass player says, "That's the one." Wow. And the music's playing. And he says to the drummer, "Is this the one?" And the drummer says, "That's the one you've been looking for, man." And BB turns to his guitar player. He had another guitar player in the band. And he says, "How about it? Can you hear this?" And B.B. King looks at me and he says, "Man, I've been looking for something like this for a long time." And I said, "You mean it?" And he says, "Yes, sir. Where'd you get this boombox?" I said, "Well, what about the song?" He said, "It's all right. How much you want for the box?" And I said, "Well, it's not for sale. It's not mine." He said, "Well, then we're done here." And I left. And I was heartbroken. I was crushed. But I made a movie out of it.
Wow.
And it's a short film. It's called "How Blue Can You Get?"
Right.
And it's pretty cool. It won some awards. And that's that's Brewer Phillips on the left from Hound Dog's band and Lefty Diz on the right. They were in the movie. I got them little cameos. And it was a miserable night, but it was a great experience.
So tell us who we have here in this group shot. Because this is a lot of people in the shot, but I know it's significant.
I think we might. I'm having trouble hearing you, but anyways, I'll tell the story.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm thinking, what could I do to keep this music alive? And as the music director for Levi's, I did 2 commercials with the Chambers Brothers. One was a cappella gospel. It was a storefront church song, and it was the Chambers Brothers sang it. The guy in the white shirt, the white guy next to me, I'm on the left in the green shirt. White guy next to me, his name is Rick Knowles. And somebody says Rick Knowles can arrange your lyrics and your vocals and make it something great. He's real hot in San Francisco. And Rick Knowles says, let's use the Chambers Brothers. It's a storefront church gospel song. Nobody gives you harmonies like brothers. He got the Chambers Brothers. You know, he's like, look at the Bee Gees, look at the Andrews Sisters, the Pointer Sisters, and the Chambers Brothers did such a great job on it. Levi says, let's do another one. And I think, who can we use? What can we do to make it a little different? So he says, let's put a band together for it, Rick Knowles. And we wound up getting Lee Sklar, the guy with the long beard and the black, and Russ Kunkel, the guy on the right next to Willie Chambers. And they are the bass player and drummer for Linda Ronstadt, Jackson Brown. They played on it, and the guy with the white jacket between them is Bill Payne, who played piano. He is one of the founders of Little Feat. And when you hear that New Orleans piano rolling with Dixie Chicken, that's Bill Payne. So it was a great thrill for me. And before I left Levi's, I did one more commercial. I did one with Valerie Wellington, who was a great, great blues singer who died young and is in the same cemetery with Muddy Waters and Magic Sam. And here is John Lee Hooker. And I did a commercial for John Lee Hooker. I based it on a riff I heard in Hooker and Heat. And there was an album that John Lee did with Canned Heat. And we get down to the studio in L.A., when I can't eat, I can't sleep, I'm waist deep in the blues. And I played John Lee Hooker the riff. I said, just do it like you did it on the record. And he says, I don't do that no more. I said, what do you mean? He's like, I don't do that. And I didn't realize till years later that he probably hadn't played it on the record. Maybe Alan Wilson played it on the record. And I'm thinking, what are we going to do? We got to get this riff played. And the engineer says, I got a guy. Give me 20 minutes. And he makes a phone call. And a little while later, into the studio walks the guy who's going to play this riff. And it was Hollywood Fats, the son of the orthodontist from Beverly Hills. And he did it in one take. And that is my John Lee Hooker commercial with Hollywood Fats on guitar.
What, man, I tell you, the stories just roll off your tongue, man, and just keep going. It's amazing. I mean,
you're breaking up a little bit here, man.
Okay.
Maybe we should just keep it going.
Okay.
And I moved to New York in 82, and Rick Knowles called me up. And Rick Knowles has since gone on. We wrote a Joan Jett song together that got recorded called Just Lust. There is an X-rated version on YouTube, but it's on her album entitled Good Music. Rick went on to record for everybody from John Legend to Adele, Madonna. Rick Knowles calls me up. He says, Ralph Schuckett, Todd Rundgren's musical director, is producing Clarence Clemens' first solo album. You got any lyrics for him? And I sent him some, and they called me back up, and he says, Clarence wants to do this song called Shoot Down the Moon. So Ralph put the music to it. Clarence Clemens recorded my song Shoot Down the Moon, and I wound up writing another one for him with Ralph and Clarence, and it's called A Man in Love, and that's the first song on that album.
Well, I know you had a really special relationship with Clarence, you know.
Clarence was a wonderful guy. I was very close with him. He knew my kids. He wound up coming into Chicago in 1995 to appear in my musical play, The Brat Race. And it was his musical stage debut in a dramatic role. He performed in 6 songs. I gave him a couple of little lines to read. He was fun. He knew how to do it. And he was a prince. I miss him terribly. We wrote a screenplay together, which was kind of a cool screenplay. It didn't get made yet, but you know, we'll see what we can do. It's a great story, and he was just a wonderful, wonderful guy. I was very lucky to have known him and be as close with him as I can be, as I was. And here's Derek Procell on the right with Lynn Orman, who introduced Joseph and I. I'm on the floor, and there's the great Eddie Shaw, who was the leader of And we were very fortunate to have written several songs for Eddie Shaw. He recorded a couple of them. One is called All That Stuff, and the other one is called The Wolf Will Howl Again. It's a tribute to Howlin' Wolf. And here I am with James Cotton, who, like I said, wound up playing on Hard again. He played on my song Bus Driver. And there he is with that photo I took of him behind him, and he's holding the book. I miss you, James. He was a sweet guy and a terrific musician. And here I am with Bobby Rush, Mr. Chickenheads, and known for much more, of course. One of the legends of soul blues, a beautiful cat. He's almost 90 and he's still out there playing. You get a chance, go see Bobby Rush. You'll be glad you did. Chickenheads. Gary, you hear that?
Incredible. Wow, look at that jacket, Terry. Woo!
Well, it's showbiz, man. And so here I am with Eddie Clearwater in the hat there, and that's his wife, Renee, in the front, and our friend, Mr. Blue, there in the red jacket.
Wow, unbelievable, man. Look at all these.
Yeah. And here we are. That's me, and that's lovely Rita next to me, and Lynn Orman Weiss. There is Mud Morganfield, one of Muddy's other sons.
Let's acknowledge Lynn for all the work she's done with you guys.
Amazing. A powerhouse.
An amazing publicist, right?
She is an amazing publicist. She is what I would call the ultimate blues facilitator. She gets records made. She makes people famous. She brings people out of obscurity and gives them thriving careers. She has an enthusiasm and a passion that I can truly say is unparalleled in the blues. Sitting in the green outfit next to her is Larry Mud Morganfield, another of Muddy's performing sons, and just a wonderful guy. Lives a few blocks from where I grew up on the west side.
Right.
And and here I am at my radio gig.
Well, yeah. So tell us briefly about your radio thing and your station, the station that you do this from, and where people can find it.
WNUR 89.3 FM and turning the stream to steam at WNUR.org. And the Blues Show, which I share in rotation with Lynn Orman Weiss and Steve Shortstack Lightning Tempkins. It's out of Northwestern University, where in 1972 I was living in that abandoned fraternity house. And it's a great opportunity to share the blues and to kind of be able to spotlight some of the great up-and-coming blusicians.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Lynn, for that.
No problem. So let's segue into this as we come to a close, because we want to highlight a couple of things here. One is your incredible children's book that you've done. Tell us about it, Terry.
Well, after I did In the Belly of the Blues, I'm asking, what can I do next? And, you got to keep the blues alive. You have to spotlight the significance of the blues. You go to a blues club, you're dancing, you're rocking and rolling and drinking and laughing. And this music comes out of such misery, such terrible times. And I tried to present this in the context of the history of the blues. And so you heard some of the rhymes earlier. And at the same time, that I am, really showcasing the blues as a tool for survival. It's art as a tool for survival. I'm talking about some of the great names many of the great names that have kept the blues alive. And here are our heroes. And this is was it Wildcats with wild names going wild on guitars, like a circus in a gumbo on a Ferris wheel to Mars. And here they are in the great gumbo kettle Ferris wheel to Mars-Mississippi. And you see Memphis Minnie, Johnny Winter, Bo Diddley. And here we are. I'm trying to honor, show how the blues honors our traditions. And the reason that people love the blues is the songs are all about us. And child brings to a papa and a mama to a wife. I'm very proud of that because a mama to a wife gives me an opportunity to spotlight and celebrate in this book, not just the Stones, not just Rosa Parks, Fannie Lou Hamer, and the heroes of the civil rights movement, but to celebrate LGBTQ families. And I don't know if that's ever been done in a blues book. And then, of course, we had that other page up there. And that was just, once again, to kind of be the segue in the book from the history to where it meets the blues. Right. And I riffed on a Magic Sam song, Mama Talk to Your Daughter. And we have Little Ed from the Blues Imperials, who I call Little Ed the Educator, saying, Magic Sam will tell your son, he'll talk to your daughter for me, that teardrops were the raindrops in the soil of the old blues tree. And it talks about homesick tears and slavery tears and Jim Crow tears. And here's a wonderful quote that I'm very proud of from Alan Wolf's daughter, Betty.
No, I have to tell you, a joyous experience, she writes. It would be wonderful if your book, I said it earlier, and she's I'm echoing her words, but I'm not going to say, she's echoing mine. I'm echoing hers. This book needs to be in every, out of respect. And this book needs to be in every school and every library and every institution, because this and the belly of the blues, the book, because everybody needs to learn this history, man. This is what started it all,
Yes, well, it's been great for me. Like I said, we were I read this book. It was the centerpiece of the Chicago Public Library's African American History Month celebration, and I do these shows live when this pandemic is over. Right. And every kid in the audience gets a blues name, and we all make a blues song together. And I'm doing Zooms.
You're doing Zooms. We're all doing Zooms, man. Yeah. But here's Lynn again, and that's where we met at the Exhibitionism tour. That's the room we met in, right there.
That's it.
That sounds a little funny, but that's the room we met in. So anyway, but
there's Abe.
Yeah, tell us about this quick vintage photo.
This is my buddy Abe, and he was the one that took me to see Howlin' Wolf, and he's the one that gave me an education in a lot of these guys. And there we are holding up one of Muddy's albums, and that's Muddy with the Gatefold there. And I can't remember if that is Electric Mud or his other electronic chess experiment, I should say. But God bless Abe. And
let's segue into a few things here, just and then we're gonna wrap it up here. Okay. But because what an hour and a half plus it's been. But I got to tell you, Sam Lay, I had the honor, thanks to being there with you and being around you, to meet him and Eddie Clearwater and others. In fact, Corky too. So here's Sam Lay holding your book. And then while I was there in Chicago, I was just so thrilled and honored to be able to meet him, shake his hand, give him a hug, and also, take this photo. I'll always live for this photo that I grabbed of him. I'm glad I wanted to ask if I could share it. Look at that smile on his face. What a beautiful man.
Yes, he's a big part of history. He's on, one of Muddy's classic albums with Paul Butterfield. I think, I can't remember who else is on that. Maybe Mike Bloomfield. Fathers and Sons, live at the Auditorium Theater. And he's played with Corky Siegel and Jim Schwall, Paul Butterfield, Rob Stone, great blues musician out of L.A. now.
I'm so thankful to have been there, to hear him sing, to hear him do his thing, to watch him. I just sat there. I was like in heaven listening to him and all the other greats that were there that night.
Billy Branch.
Billy Branch on stage in the middle there. Yep. With the hat
also
on.
Mentioned in my kid's book, by the
way. That's right. Yeah, and then, of course, I nabbed this bluesish photo in the color with you and Corky.
You know what? I'll tell you something. It's fitting to start wrapping it up with Corky, because Corky has a quote that I just love, talking about hanging out with all these old blues guys in the 60s and early 70s. And Corky said, "We knew it was cool, but we didn't know how cool it was."
Wow. You know what, man? Talk about a quote to almost end on, and I say almost
There's
because
Corky.
besides having Corky in his performance photo that I'll always keep in my collection, and I'm honored to have taken it, is and this of Eddie and Sam Lay, Eddie Clearwater and Sam Lay. But what I want to wrap it up with you is a few last words once again in memory of, and the only way to end this show in memory of Joe Morganfield. Go ahead, Terry.
Joseph Morganfield was a treasure and continues to be a treasure in his physical absence. He was a beautiful, beautiful soul. And his smile could fill a room. It could fill a universe. I was so lucky to know him. I was so lucky to have connected with him. It meant a lot to him that I had this relationship with his dad. And I think it kind of just heated up the chemistry between us. And like I said, here we are at the Electric Mud Coffee House on Western Avenue in Chicago. And we only had like maybe 4.5 years together, but we made the most of them. Our friendship flourished. He confided in me, and it was beautiful, wonderful.
You guys look like you had a lifetime together. You know why you did? Because you being around his dad so much, and knowing him so well, and being his white son, as he said, and everything else. I have to tell you, the beauty of this smile in this photo right here, under the sign Electric Mud, thinking about Muddy. Wow, I mean, this is a photo. I hope you have it framed on your wall.
It's up there. It's up there. And, I want to say there we are. We're at the Chicago Blues Festival. And how lucky I was and how lucky I am to have connected with Derek Brosell, who sang commercial demos for me in the 90s and did some demos for some songs for my plays. And Derek, I call him the alchemist. I give him the lyrics and he turns them into these beautiful, beautiful songs. And we wrote 3 songs that Joseph recorded. And it was just the thrill of a lifetime for me to have kind of gone full circle, being with Muddy and then having Joseph record these songs. Wow. And, they've been on an EP. Delmark had plans for them. I'm not sure where they're going, but to have known Joseph is reward enough. He's a beautiful cat.
May he always rest in peace, and may his memories stay alive through his music, through his heart, with his family, and with you. Terry, I have to tell you, man, thank you so much for being here this morning, and thank you so much for sharing everything with us on the Spin It Social Hour.
Thank you, man. And I think there's, we know how people can reach me. You got it at the bottom of the screen there.
Oh, yeah.
Stefan, you're doing a great thing here, bringing these photographers some recognition. Thank you for the opportunity to tell my tales and help keep the blues alive.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I have to tell you, keep it up, keep up the great work, keep spreading the gospel of the blues and everything else, and educating everybody out there with this wonderful photography, stories, and all the heart you put into it. So thank you so much. Hold on, Terry, I'm going to do a couple of things. Stay behind stage and I'll be right there. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Oscar. Mwah.
Oscar Wilson. That's a give. Absolutely, Oscar. What a surprise that was. So hold on. I'll be right back. Okay. Folks, wow. What a show today. Started with Terry, brought on Oscar Wilson. He gave us some tunes. We were able to hear him sing the blues right here. It's been an incredible year. 2020, though, goodbye. This was a highlight to end it on, of all things. So thank you to everybody for being here. I hope everybody stays well. I want to, in parting, remind everybody that I do have another sponsor of this show. It's Real Talk Live from the Barn with Emilio Pardo, who's a visionary brand strategist. We're working on new shows for the new year. Here's a quick look. Hi there.
Welcome to Real Talk Live at the Barn.
All right, we promise, and we'll have some great new shows, very important new shows. The last show we had on, if you check out Real Talk Live from the Barn, you can find it on YouTube now. That's Real Talk Live at the Barn, and you will be able to see the wonderful interview we did and talk with Michael Margolis, a great storyteller and an advisor to Facebook, Dolby, and NASA. Check out Michael Margolis with Emilio Pardo on the last show. Thank you very much. And as I said, we're moving the show, folks, to Thursdays, 9 p.m. every other Thursday. Thank you, Rose, for being here. And thank you, everybody. Do we have any other parting shout-outs here? We had tons. So, I have to tell you, Ross, wow, thank you. Ross stayed for the whole show. Ross, I hope it was a great one. Great show. I'll be tuning in to future shows, and we'll be ordering Terry's book. And he'll autograph it for you, Ross. A personal autograph coming to you, boy. So thank you, everybody. And please find us on every other Thursday. The first show on Thursday, January 7th. Guests to be announced very soon. It's fine to Spin It Social Hour live here at Facebook.com, Stefan Spin It Social, Twitter at Spin It Social, LinkedIn, Stefan Kaplan, YouTube, the Spin It Social Hour. Folks, let's do great things in 2021. We're going to be in this pandemic a while longer, but let's help everybody mask up, stay safe, stay well, and everybody, please, of all, mask up and save lives. Take care. Have a great one. We'll see you on January 7th. Bye-bye, folks.